illi nafek snin naħseb issa illi nafek.
It has been, yes.
U speċi dejjem kontenni nagħmel grafs u fitxu d-data u nagħmlu riċerka l-podcast ma se taħdem magħna. Però ma' żmien tallimt li inti wkoll bipolar.
Anke jien f'dak iż-żmien tallimt li kont bipolar.
Ġifieri dak iż-żmien meta tallimt jien li inti kont bipolar, inti kont qed titgħallem ukoll bipolar.
You were one of the first few funny messages I sent, which were ensued by a couple of more. Listen, I discovered this about myself. Do you know anyone who can help me because it's a bit crazy? So it was about 2.5 years ago, and my dates are terrible, so it might be 3, but not 2.
Kif skoprejt?
It was a discovery by accident, right? So I had been treating myself for a couple of years since I was 16 for depression and ADHD. This is a very, very, very common route for someone to discover that they have what's called manic depressive or bipolar. So they're treated
Manic depressive or bipolar?
Oh, sorry, manic depressive. At the time, manic depressive, sorry, I found out was bipolar. It's the same word. Okay. Many people, before they discover it, think that they're ADHD and depressed. Why? When you're a mania, you think it's because of ADHD, and the depression is thankfully depression. Easy to identify. And I had been taking quite a lot of treatment for years, changing psychologists, psychiatrists, got to a point where I was doing what's called ECT, electroshock therapy. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
Nasib darba semmili Pamela kienet, semmili xaġġor, fakkarni ċini.
Basically, it's when you used to see the old movies and they grab someone, tie him down, put something in his mouth and pass electricity. Nowadays, it's much fancier. You go to a hospital, they give you anesthesia, and you go out basically being electrocuted. But it should help with depression. They're not sure why.
But żgur ma dix kif tajt, rudimentali daqs kemm kienet qabel.
I don't think they go to it as a first resort anymore, no. In fact, it's a last resort. It has quite a lot of side effects. One of the most common known ones is loss of short-term memory. It's not that you use it forever. It's hard to know. Well, yes, for sure. So at the time I was dating someone, I remember, and she picked me up after ECT. I go out and I'm like, I know her. I know I speak to her, but I can't feel anything. And not because can't feel anything like you fall in love. Like there's no memories to latch on to. There's no... But other than...
Did you remember she was your girlfriend?
Yeah, of course. In fact, you don't lose it completely. But the thing is, you'd never know how much you lose, right? So if I'm going home and I lost my memory of what I did last week, no one's going to tell me that I had that memory. So most of it is unknown, and some of it you get to know it through stupidity. So someone will tell me, we just spoke about this, or show me a photo, look, you're here. But it wasn't too extreme. I don't think it had too much of a detriment on me. But
Kemm dom ta' dejbija, mela? Ta' 16 ta' li kellek l-ewwel diagnosi ta' ADHD u depression?
We had 16. I started realizing something is wrong with the brain. So I started going to psychologists. The psychologist thought a psychiatrist is probably better here. When I compare myself to anyone else, let me say Julian, for example, and I see how his brain functions and mine doesn't function as good on a day-to-day basis. So am I disabled from the get-go? Well, yeah, I guess so. Day-to-day, then you learn how to get around it in ways. Sometimes they're pretty, sometimes less.
Okay. So, Mela, let's start again. We're from kind of like...
16 white arrow time.
White arrow time.
In summary, I went from a nerd to San Luigi. Glasses, spiky hair, Slipknot. So junior college, maybe a month. And then White Arrow, where...
Donna tifel daħal issa kif daħal il-junior college tifel tiegħi.
To be fair, many people who went to White Arrow are nowadays accountants, lawyers, etc. So it's not like everyone who's there turned out to be bad. Most of them, in fact, turned out more than fine. Then there was me. But for me, it was just a new experience, right? Going from being a nerd, San Luigi, all boys school, not having friends, to suddenly in there with who I used to see, I still do, as the cool guys, and they're treating me as one of them. Which was
Daniel.
As weird as Daniel, Tatus. But that came after, yeah. Pizza by Luca.
U dak ta' pizza bajluka. Għaxin kont taħdem miegħu il-pizza bajluka kif kien?
Yeah, that's how we met, in fact.
Mela.
It was interesting.
U ta' 16, ġviri, wasalt il-junior college u bdejt indun li hemm xi ħaġa li hija problematika bil-mod li taħseb xiex kell kollha anzjetà
I was never too anxious, luckily, but mostly going to depression and bad places on the regular without seeing any pattern. So if I see a pattern and I'm feeling bad, I can solve it, right? Because I can prevent what's happening before. But when I'm in the middle of a football game and suddenly I want to go jump, or I'm smiling a lot, I'm happy about life, and suddenly bullets, I want them to be in my head, At first you don't know it's wrong, right? Because no one tells you you're not meant to think this. You think,
Is this literal daħli għattajt issa?
yeah. I mean, I speak about suicide very frankly, right? I don't go in a corner and cry.
Ma li tkun qiegħed għaddej b'logħba futbol li ġeneralment hija pjuttost xi ħaġa li tkun qed taħseb dwar il-logħba, but forsi wara isu tirrifletti għax telaq kulħadd id-dar.
To be fair, a football game, I'll sometimes still think about life. Like football is quite not easy in that space. Aliyah, and I'm quite a lazy person. So if I'm in attack, I ain't running back. So if they're at the back attacking, I have a couple of seconds.
U dik il-pawza tik moment għal-riflessjoni esistenzjali.
Ma esistenzjali fis-sens look at myself and go, okay, at the moment, all of the benefits in my life, all of the good things, all of the bad things, not account, right? Because I have more good things sometimes, but in general, unajt il-bilanċ fejqijat. And I say...
Ma dan jisam pjuttost razzjonali dal-li għattamet.
Yes, in fact, my suicidal thoughts are sometimes in my head semi-rational. They're never 100% right rational, because you can always solve it. But like when you're manic, you think you can do anything. Over there, I think I can do nothing. So if I'm in the middle of a football game, my brain will go through a series of things where I'll blanked out and it decides that this is the time I'm going to, oh God, like my brain, like I still keep playing, like I can still interact with people nowadays, but inside
but now you can't. But when it started happening, your first recollection of it happening,
it was like in my 16s. I used to cry all the time like an idiot. Yeah, of course. And I used to associate it with bad things. So I'll like have a relationship that didn't go well. And in the months after, whatever goes wrong, I'm like, because of that. It has to be because of that. Because obviously you try to rationalize it. So if I'm seeing people around me not sad, or not as sad, and nothing is really going wrong in my life, I'm sad. So the logic there is off. So if the logic is off, then a solution has to be there, and it needs to be there. And it continued up and down, like I said, up until 2 years ago. So that will jump between stories. Started off like that with pills.
But wait, before we get to 2 years ago. All the while, għaddej inti dan il-fluctuate, l-oscillazzjoni bej.
Like most of my friends will, when I told them, many of them were like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Alfej, why do you think that they said that?
Because the ones who know me well, I share my bad moments with them. So my closest friends, for example, will know my deepest despairs properly. My wife nowadays, the rest of the world obviously won't. And they also know my driven character who, if there is a concrete wall and they want to go behind it and they don't have tools, I'm the guy you call because I'm going to keep on going. I don't know how. Like I'll start and then figure it out, I guess. And that is usually an opposite person. You usually say dak il-bniedem kull ma tih jagħmel.
Jew dak għażien.
In fact, I like to say it even at the office that I'm quite a lazy guy, right? And I nowadays have learned to work with it as much as I can. But yeah, it's, I guess, bipolar. Whoever thought of the word really knew that there's going to be some of this jazz happening where it's two things.
It ta' bipolarity li għandek inti. Hija ma nafx hemm xi kategoriji differenti tagħhom dal-bipolar.
There's a whole spectrum, which I don't know by heart, but the most common ones are 1 and 2. 1 is the most severe. So let's say I'm going to try to think of situations that didn't actually happen. A person might end up naked running in the street because of a manic episode, perhaps because he thinks that he can lift cars. It can be that bad, that's 1. So those are the ones that last for days, sometimes weeks, and the troughs and the bottoms are much stronger. And 2, I'm in between them, so I'm a low 1, high 2. So
you're low 1, high 2.
Yeah. So that means...
Okay. X'imkien bejn it-tnejn? Mela, tlaqna?